my name's Bryce, and I'm just your stereotypical nerd dad. I enjoy sharing all of my nostalgic old things with my kids, whether it's Pokemon or Star Wars. Recently, it's been Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball itself. And we've really enjoyed getting to know the characters through the eyes of my kids. Watching Goku go Super Saiyan for the very first time. Watching Goku die as Gohan defeats Cell. Watching the Buu saga. All of that has been so much fun. And through watching this, we wanted to then take it to the game space, which is where we always love to go. Whether that be the Pokemon trading card game, the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, HeroClix, or Marvel Crisis Protocol. My kids desperately want to play Warhammer, but it's still a little bit too much with the painting and the super glue. Well, as a good dad, I did my research and I found a Dragon Ball game, and I found this Dragon Ball Super card game. And as I tried to learn it, I downloaded the app. I was trying to play on there. It was so convoluted. It was so difficult. And here's what we really found. And this is what I always wanted as a kid. When I play a game, I want to be brought into the show. One thing we loved about Yu-Gi-Oh! Was how much playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game felt like actually being a duel master ourselves. Like we could really be Yugi or Kaiba or Joey. And so the game didn't quite scratch the itch. As I began to look into more Dragon Ball universe related games, we found that just really nothing accomplished that feeling that we were these Dragon Ball characters fighting one another. So I thought, how could we accomplish that? And I came up with the idea, let's just make the game ourselves. So we began, my sons and I, to develop a game that felt like we were Dragon Ball Z characters fighting one another. The first part of the game was we needed to think of how to play, how to run the rules. Where do we even begin? So let's dive on into that. So our first decision is this going to be a card game or a miniatures game? Now, I've always loved the idea of miniature games. I grew up playing Warhammer. When my cousin first told me about Warhammer, he didn't have the models to show me. He was describing it to me while we were out camping. And I began to think in my little childhood brain that he was talking about action figures. So I went to my local Games Workshop store where I could find some Warhammer figures, and I was expecting to find these plastic figures in typical action figure boxes, and they didn't have them. So I asked the store manager, "Excuse me, do you guys have Warhammer?" He said, "Yes." And I was standing in the very aisle, these little miniatures. Now, I didn't know at the time, but I would fall in love and fall in love hard. But I went back with this game design idea to go, action figures you can play a game with. Well, when we went to Target, my son ended up buying some of these Dragon Ball Z action figures. And they had a lot of fun with them. They have swappable parts, and I thought that was pretty cool. But they're kind of expensive. Not only that, but they don't really stand up well. But when I was a kid, well, I don't have any here, but when I was a kid, I grew up playing with Dragon Ball Z action figures that weren't really action figures, which is kind of sad for a show that's all about dynamic posing and the Kamehameha pose and the Gallic Gun, all of that. But they were these stick straight figures that could move their arms up and down, and that was about it. But it would be perfect for a board game. I went looking for them, and we went to a Brass Armadillo, which is a local antique store in our area, kind of a big one. It's almost like a supermarket turned into an antique store. And we went up and down the aisles looking, and kind of struck out. However, I went back on my own, and I ended up finding these little figures here, which seemed just about perfect. They went back all the way in my mind to the Warhammer concept. And not only that, the bases are just slightly over an inch, which got me to thinking, these are probably perfect for a board game. But now, we need to find our board. Is it going to be like Warhammer, where we are measuring with tape measures and you have open terrain? Or is it going to be a little bit more structured? I found with my kids, I've played with them a little bit of some Warhammer tests. We play HeroClix, so it's more on a grid system, and definitely the grid system was the way to go. So now, we just have to find our board. So, I went over to our board game area looking for a board, and wouldn't you know it, I got really lucky. My son had his wooden chess and checkers set. So I pulled out the board for this thing, and I looked at the characters, praying that they would fit, and look, perfectly, they fit on within the square. Now we've got a board, we've got characters, and we had these checkers and chess pieces to use as tokens, pawns, and other things that we might need. But now we need to figure out, how do we actually play this game? What is this game? How do we do moves? At this point, we have our board, we have our characters, we've got the pieces of a game, but now we actually need a game. Like, how do we play? How do we use our abilities? Well, first we'll need to choose moves. There's a variety of moves. So, next I had to start designing the moves. How do they work? How do you pay for them? What do they do? So, I pulled up a note document. This is a copy of what was on my phone. I actually was just sitting around watching TV with my family, eating dinner. As I was going about my day, I'd pull out my note app on my phone and I'd jot a few of this down. But I began to think through, okay, well, we need the move, the name of the move. We need how much keys does a move cost. Moves like the Kamehameha. The move has to do damage. So I began to come up with moves and moves and moves and more moves and more moves and more moves. And so this was the writing and concept stage. At this point in the design process, we had the board, the characters. I had slipped some of these white cards and written some out into some of these card sleeves. And then we had this resource system of potential energy and active energy. But it was a lot of work to continually change the dice back and forth, especially when you had multiple characters, because there'd be 4 dice per character, and as you could see, the board could get kind of crowded. So next it was time to start designing. I opened up GIMP, which is a free version of Photoshop that I've been using since I was a young adult or a young teen. First things first, we need a background, so I gave it a background. We need to name our move, so the move had a name. And this kind of became the early design of our card, just by pulling some art off of the internet, usually screenshots from the anime where I could get them. And I would come up with these basic moves that everyone needed. And then we began to design special moves like Kamehameha, Special Beam Cannon, Masenko. As we played the game, we realized that we needed a way to designate who we were attacking. And so we came up with targeting cards, location cards. We came up with resource dials. So I went down to my local print shop and I printed out the cards. I ended up slipping them into some Magic the Gathering card sleeves that I already had. And then I cut out the cardboard and made our resource dials. So now we have all of our game elements to play this game. We played a lot, and boy did we have a lot of fun. In fact, actually, we went on to 3D print many, many more characters. My birthday came and went, and I got some birthday money in, and I thought, well, let me surprise the kids, and I will order some custom playing cards that look legitimate. They'll look like Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Magic cards, Lorcana. And so I went to this website called MakePlayingCards.com, and I downloaded the template, and I found out that my cards did not fit the template. So I had to redesign them, which is fine, but it took about 2 days. But I went ahead and from scratch rebuilt the cards within the template, adding all of the areas. And this time we made a few improvements. Some of the previous cards were hard to see some of the words and letters. The shadow box wasn't shadowy enough. And then I went to order the cards. But I found out it would be around $176.55 to get all the cards. Besides the money, there was another problem. I was worried that I might get flagged for copyright or trademark issue or something by the website because I'm using all of this art from Toei Animation, and I'm also using a bunch of trademarked names like Goku and Vegeta. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to order the cards. So that got me thinking, how can we move forward? However, this did bring with it an opportunity. You see, with the cards, there's a lot of cards. These are just Goku's cards, basic cards that everyone has. Your location cards, which tell you where to move. Targeting cards, which designate which target you're hitting. It's just too many cards. Especially, this is just one character. Imagine if you're playing with Goku and Vegeta. That's too many cards. So I went back to my thinking place, and I began to think, how do we manage all of these cards? We solved the D10 problem with a resource style. I began thinking through all the systems that you can use for action management. I went on a Reddit page about game design, asked them. Some people had recommended a digital element to the game, and I didn't like that. So I began to think of using something like a Yu-Gi-Oh style dual disc system, where you can take your cards and put them in certain slots, but in this case it would be decks of cards that you would have in certain slots that you would pull out and pull from. So you could manage all of those cards within smaller, easier piles, but it wouldn't be a dual disc you'd wear on your wrist. It would be more like taking one of these gaming trays, laying out sections for where the cards would go, and then you'd have the cards that are displayed, and then I would cut little pockets into these that you would slide the rest of your deck into. So when you're playing the game, you would pull out a deck of cards, look through it, pick, let's say, Super Saiyan, the transformation you want, put the Super Saiyan transformation on the field for your opponent to see, and then slide the rest of the cards back into a little slot that go out of the way. Seemed like a good idea, except we still have the money problem. So that brought us back to where we started. Digital elements. I really avoided it because not everyone likes digital elements. I've never personally enjoyed them. You got to make sure that your stuff is charged and that everything's working, but it does bring a lot of benefits with it. One, I can share it with the world, so you're welcome. Here you are. You can play along with us now. And I already have all the cards digitally developed. It became clear that the website was the right option. I remember back in the day, we had these things called GeoCities, which you could just make a free website. I remember playing with that back in the 90s to early 2000s. And they don't exist anymore. However, what does exist is Google Sites, which is a free, it's better than GeoCities. It's a free way to get in and make a website. So using Google Sites, I went in and I began to make my website. And we have right here, just like the cards, like they worked out originally, the board, and using images, I can use these slideshows to basically create a rough approximation of our game, where we can have our cards here and it can work just like where you select your cards and you pick. This is just set up for a basic character, but I began to make the homepage where you can pick your character, and then, so let's say I want to be GT Goku, and then I have GT Goku ready to go. It's already got all of his attacks built in. We've got Kamehameha, we've got Destructo Disc. The site's kind of rough. I made it, I stayed up to about midnight last night, and then I finished it early this morning. And so I want it to where when you hover over the cards, it makes a bigger image that's easier to read. In the meantime, though, I've got a bigger image of all the cards here. We've got your key pool built in with a countdowner, so you can set your active key and your key pool appropriately. So it's all ready to go. We have this website here where you can come and learn how to play. I have written out all the rules online to teach you how to play. I'll probably film a few tutorial videos, and then you can pick your character and pull out a tablet, pull out a laptop, grab some tokens and a chess or checkers board. And now all you need to do is pull up the site on your nearest tablet. If you have multiple characters, for example, I've got Gohan and Goku versus Frieza. So on one tab, I've got Goku. On the other tab, I've got Gohan. Goku can select his move. Let's say we're gonna do a Kamehameha over to Frieza. So we're gonna target Frieza, who's in position 1. And we're gonna hit him with a Kamehameha. In fact, you know what? Let's actually throw a instant transmission Kamehameha on Frieza. And then for Gohan, we're gonna go ahead and power up to, you know what, let's actually transform into Gohan Beast. And he can use the power up option along with that. And that's gonna be his move, and there you go. Then you just simply show you can hide your moves from your opponent. When you're ready to show them, you put your moves down and you show your opponent what you picked. They show you what they picked, and the game plays out. And yeah, from beginning to end, that's how we developed DB Fight, which is our fun little miniature card game. My boys and I really love it. With the website up, now anytime we come up with a new character or we tweak the way that any of the cards work, I can simply just throw them on the website, and there's no need to go down to the local print shop, get it printed out, cut it out, and put it in a new card sleeve. It's also free to update. That was a problem where we'd redo a move, and then it was like, okay, well, remember, we changed that move, so we'll have to go back and then, just remember in our heads, and then one day we'll go back to the print store and print it out and cut it out and slide it in the new sleeve, and we don't have to do that anymore. It updates live. If you guys have enjoyed this, if you want to play, feel free to just go. It's sites.google.com/view/DB as in Dragon Ball Fight. I don't know if you have to put in /home. I've also thrown up a post on Reddit, but again, I'll throw the link down in the description of this video. And if you've appreciated any of my time or effort, feel free to just buy me a coffee. You can send to my Cash App or click the PayPal button, which will take you over to my PayPal, which links to an old nonprofit I used to run called Soul Wart. So if it says Soul Wart, don't be confused by that. I used to run a nonprofit focused on mental health. If you want to learn how to play, you can click the rules down there. Thank you so much, guys, and you have a great one. I'll keep you guys informed as we update the game, and maybe I'll clue you guys into any other games that I finish making. All in all, guys, I hope that you have been encouraged to be creative, have fun, and play with your kids more. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.